Please, by all means, continue. Hello, everyone. We are back, continuing our Studio Ghibli retrospective. We're at 2004's Howl's Moving Castle, directed by Hayao Miyazaki. This is one that's often hailed as one of the best in the whole catalogue of Studio Ghibli films. It is one that I had watched before, many, many years ago, to the point where when I did originally watch it, I actually watched the dubbed version. So I remembered some of the voices. I knew that Christian Bale was the voice of Howl. I knew that Billy Crystal was the voice of Calcifer. But today I thought, you know what, for the sake of comparison in my own mind, I'm going to watch the subtitled version, as I have with all of the ones so far. And you watch the dub. So this...
Shit.
And everyone just immediately clicks off this video.
It was the worst, one of the worst. Well, not one of the worst dubs I've seen, because I've seen some shit dubs because I've watched some questionable stuff just because I know it's bad. But that's going in knowing it's bad. Like, this was just like, there's some things that are so bad it's good. This was not one of those things. This was just like, why am I listening to this? Christian Bale sounded like an idiot. He sounded like, I mean, you remember when you first saw The Dark Knight, or Batman Returns even, and you hear Christian Bale's Batman voice. As a kid, you're like, okay. And then as you get older, you're just like, why? It grates. It's horrible. And that was what his voice sounded like in this. It was just like, what are you doing? It just sounded, sounded like he had Down syndrome. Like, it was weird.
It's been a while since I've watched the dub. I'm talking years. The biggest takeaway that I can remember, and I actually think that we're not the only ones with that opinion. I think I did see it floating around in like forums and stuff at the time when I was looking into the film. He just sounds really bored as a voice actor. He just sounds like he doesn't want to be there, and that's nothing against Christian Bale. I think he's a fantastic actor in the right project. He's done voice acting before. He does the voice of Percy and not Percy. What's his name in Pocahontas? Sort of like the young green British guy who shoots Cocoam by accident. That guy. I'm saying Percy. That's the name of the little pug dog. I can't remember his name. Thomas. Is it Thomas? I think it's Thomas. So Christian Bale can do like a good voice. Like he can voice act. So I don't know whether it was a question of direction or maybe he didn't really understand the character. I don't know. But as I say, I never had a problem with this. So from my mind, the subtitled version, I didn't have a single problem with any of the voices. I thought all the voices fit pretty damn well. My biggest criticism with this film is just kind of the meandering plot to me. There'll be revelations of certain characters. This is mostly towards the end of the film where they'll just drop information on you and it doesn't seem like there's been any effective lead up to it. A lot of the stuff that's happening is very much in the background, but the actual core plot, there's not really much narrative thrust or narrative drive to anything from me. Maybe this is one that I'll need to do a few more viewings of. I've already done 2 at the moment, but I really tried. I thought, considering we've watched all the other ones so far, I thought I would be coming into this one with completely fresh eyes. And enjoy it a lot more than I did originally. And I have to say, I find my enjoyment is about the same in that it's just kind of, okay, well, I've watched it. It just complete ambivalence, really.
I would never watch it again, ever. It was not just the voice acting, it just, everything about it was so cliche. So, like, you got, like, Howl as a character was that cliche, pretty boy anime looking magician-y kind of, where he's like, obviously when he first shows up with the whole, at the beginning where, I like the beginning, to be fair. And I'm not even talking about the very, very beginning of, like, where the big things move in and the like the not 3D. Well, yeah, 3D, the 3D animation and stuff. I'm not even talking that because that I like, but I'll comment on that in a second. I'm talking about when Sophie's like walking through the street, and the guys are kind of like, talking to her and he kind of saves her and, they kind of like, what doesn't he like sort of like make the move or something? And this whole, it's that puppeteering kind of, it was just, it wasn't the worst. It was a cool opening scene. I was like, okay, this is quite cool. But just the more it got on, the more everything just seemed so cliche. Like the way he was drawn, the way he sort of did that was like, oh, he's kind of this magic, magician-y looking kind of guy that, And when the shadowy kind of things came out the wall, it was just so like, I have just seen this kind of shit to death, and nothing about it was original to me. It was like, yay. And yeah,
He reminds me of King Jareth a little bit from Labyrinth, David Bowie. Like the high-waisted trousers, like the big poofy kind of blousey, piratey kind of thing that he's wearing.
yeah, but
And
why does he have to be as charming as that? It was like, oh my god, we've seen this thing before. Like, give me a
he's
break.
like the... So you know how you say like in anime like waifu? What's like the opposite? What's like the pretty boy word? What do you call that in anime?
I don't know.
But he's that. He is very much that. I do like the angle of how he's sort of becoming this beast. I thought that's quite cool. I love the design of like when he's like all monsterified and he's like horrible. He's got all the wings. Like the animation. I will say, like the animation in this again, broken record here, looks astounding. Like this was all done digitally. The backgrounds were hand drawn and the characters were. Then it was like scanned in. And you can notice that you can notice a bit more of that digital stuff going on, but it's not like in your face with it. It's integrated really well. The colors, I think you've mentioned this on a previous one. I can't remember which film it was specifically that you talked about, but you mentioned how vibrant everything looked, how colorful everything looked. Now I watched this on Netflix on my TV, and I've got like an old TV. Like my TV is one from like 2009 or something. Just a bog standard like LCD TV, 1080p, and the colors were just so vivid and so vibrant. It just looked absolutely gorgeous, like the greens of the hills, the blue of the sky, and everything. It's something that we've seen it in a bunch of Studio Ghibli movies before, but it just really hit me in this one. So yeah, the animation's incredible. And I do like a lot of the characters. I do find them quite fun and charming and well animated. But for me, it is just the plot.
Side characters that were fun, though. It wasn't really any of the main characters. I
agree.
Pissed me off. She was just such a shit character. And when she became an old lady, that was, I mean, to be fair, like as I say, talking voices again, the old lady, like that was cool. But Gene Simmons was shit. That was her name. Gene Simmons.
It was. Yeah. Not Gene Simmons from Kiss, but yes.
Like the young, she was fucking diabolical. I was like, what the fuck is this? Like for a split second, I thought, is this Daisy Ridley? Like it was, it sounded nothing like her, obviously, but I was like, Jesus Christ, it was just such a fucking, I couldn't stand her as a character. He saved her, and I was like, mate, just throw her off the balcony. Like when they jumped on the balcony, and I was like, mate, just throw her off, just end the movie now.
Going by the comments here, Bath Time says, isn't this regarded as one of the peaks of Japanese cartoons? It is. It's one of the most commercially successful films, apparently.
And you've got to remember, there was a point in history when the Germans considered 1930 something as peak Germany. So I'm just saying. That's all I'm saying.
Critical acclaim for this film in both, Eastern and Western audiences. It was nominated at the 78th Academy Awards, quite rightly so, for the category of Best Animated Film. I will agree that it absolutely deserves a nomination, but it lost to Wallace and Gromit: The Curse of the Were-Rabbit.
I didn't like that movie.
They're two very, very different films. Like comparing one with the other, I do think the animation is
astounding. I'm used to Wallace and Gromit. It's such a fucking thing, isn't it? Like it's got a name behind it. It's like when you see games or movies, mate. I go, mainly games, I would say. But when sometimes it's like another in a series that isn't like a direct sequel, and you think they've just slapped that name on just to build sale. Like, do you know what I mean? Because you're like, it's kind of like that, but the name is on it for that. It's kind of like that. Like, it's always going to do better because of the name. But this, I think animation-wise, it was great. Like when obviously she turns into the old lady and stuff, she sees like all the wrinkles on her hands. I think that popped out really nicely. I think animation-wise, yes, it deserves loads of praise.
Yeah. Bath Time says, I thought you were going to say peak Japan was 1944.
Hey.
Ooh. Oh dear. And Bath Time, a bit off topic, but do you pay for your streaming software, Chris? Yes, I do. I think it comes to, don't quote me on this, I think it comes to around about £26 a month I pay for StreamYard. You can do a free version, but you have you get like a little watermark in the corner, and I think you get a few other limitations. I don't think it allows you to add as many graphics or backgrounds and things like that. I think it's probably fairly bare bones. And I think there are different packages you can get. What one allows you to store more videos in your library, just so you've got a log of everything that you stream. Some might allow you to add more graphics to it. I just go for like the middle package. It's not the basic one, sort of like the middle one. I think it's about £26 a month. Yeah.
What was that name? The one with like in the, you know, where she's got like she's like the glamorous looking one with the yellow dress and the.
Oh, she's her stepmom, isn't she? Like Sophie's stepmom. Yeah, I can't remember the name, I must admit.
He reminds me of, I don't know if you ever saw the Hunger Games, but that the glamorous chick, like, what's her name? Oh,
I think I know who you mean.
Yeah, she reminded me of her.
Yeah, a little bit. She kind of reminded me of, you know, in Princess and the Frog, the blonde.
You know who else she looks like? Actually, I've just thought this right now. She looks a spitting image. Remember Mary Poppins? You know, the mum, the suffragette woman, where she was dancing. She looks exactly like her. She looks exactly the same.
Bath Time says Nintendo is wild for that. They develop gameplay concepts and then use it for existing properties.
What is it? Yeah, this is the thing I said about slapping the name on things.
Oh yeah.
It's kind of like I mean, I love Final Fantasy 16, but it's kind of like a lot of people like it felt like Devil May Cry, but they just put Final Fantasy on it, like because it obviously to sell and that sort of stuff. So yeah, it's that kind of example of where things kind of do that sometimes, where you think, is it really this? And that's the thing about Wallace and Gromit. But hey, I'm not the huge Wallace and Gromit fan, as we found out before.
Let's just go over the plot very, very briefly of this one for anyone who maybe hasn't seen Howl's Moving Castle, just so they have a bit more context of what we're talking about. So the main character, this character called Sophie, who is cursed by a witch and becomes very, very old, and then finds herself encountering the wizard Howl and his house of supporting characters, basically magical characters, enchanted characters. And in the backdrop, there's this war going on between these two nations in the kingdoms.
There's a war going on, isn't there, in the background?
Yes, and especially with Miyazaki, him being a pacifist. We'll get onto that in a minute. It's definitely probably the most profound theme in his film, in his films, but definitely this one. And Howl is sort of fighting in this war. He doesn't necessarily have a side. He doesn't agree with war, but he's refusing to fight for the king, and he's just trying to stop this conflict. Basically, he's playing off both sides. The main reason that this is, I should say, this is based on a book. Actually, this is a Welsh author that it's based on. Diana Wynne Jones, I think, is her name. It's a 1986 novel, and apparently the book and the film are very, very different, as is often the case with these adaptations. For example, I think war is mentioned once in the book, like offhandedly. In this, it's the entire backdrop of the film. And even then, we don't really know much about the war. We sort of hear drips and drabs that it's because one of the princes of the neighboring kingdoms has gone missing. So these two kingdoms are just fighting. There's a bunch of airships and, you know, bombers going over and everything. This all stemmed from Miyazaki because he's a pacifist, and his opposition to the United States invasion of Iraq in 2003. So when Spirited Away won the Oscar, he mentioned his dissatisfaction and he had a great deal of rage apparently against the Iraq war. And he knew that his next film, he wanted to bring this in as a core theme, even stating that he wanted to make a film where American audiences would hate or feel completely alienated from. He made this film with that in mind, that he didn't want this to appeal to Western audiences, specifically Americans, which I think he failed to do, because as I mentioned, this is often hailed as one of the best. Like, a lot of people love this film, so I don't think it achieved that end. But yeah, it's definitely a big film, but a big theme, sorry. But for me, it doesn't really go beyond the very blanket statement of war is bad. And we don't really get to know each side. It's just kind of happening very much in the background. It's actually kind of random when it cuts to it. I always thought, you know, like we sort of almost like a day in the life with Sophie cleaning the house and talking to Calcifer and Markle and everything. And then all of a sudden it cuts to Howl, who's this like evil crow creature. And there's, you know, like air raid sirens and nukes being dropped and everything. It felt a little bit jarring sometimes to me, the juxtaposition.
To be fair, though, anything can kind of happen in any time, in the sense of war is just a nice background rather than nothing. You know, it's like instead of having nothing happen. So I can see it wasn't. Yeah, it was. It didn't feel too random to me.
But I do quite like the, I'll say, personification really of Hal becoming this monster. The more he intervenes, the more he transforms into this creature to aid the fight. It's consuming him. So, you know, like war consumes all and, you know, takes away your humanity and everything. Like, I get it. I get the themes of it. But I think that that's quite effectively shown throughout the animation, and him becoming more monstrous and more bird-like. The scene that always stands out in my mind is where, I don't know if it's a dream sequence or if it actually happens. I think it's a dream sequence. Sophie sort of walks into this cave with a candle or a lantern, and Howl's like this huge, immense bird-like creature shrouded in dark feathers, and his voice has changed, and he's become a creature essentially. That's a really cool image. I love the way that it was animated with all the feathers and
I like the Scarecrow.
Yeah, he's my favorite character. Turnip. Is it?
Yeah. And his face reminded me of Assassination Classroom. It's like an alien that is there and like supposed to like. I can't remember the plot of it. I've been meaning to watch it, but it's something like there's an alien that teaches a class, and it will destroy the world if the class doesn't pass their exams or something. It's like a really weird kind of anime, obviously. But yeah, the face just reminded me of that alien creature.
He's just a really nice character, isn't he? I think this is a big difference between the book and the film. I think he's more of a... I don't know if he's a villain in the book or if Sophie's scared of him. And then I think she sort of comes around to the character towards the end of the book, I think. But in the film, she pretty much just, takes a fancy to him straight away. But he's just a really nice, helpful character. I think it's a really fun design for the character. I like the fact that you've got a Scarecrow character that... This isn't like your Wizard of Oz kind of Scarecrow where he is, very human-like and animated and moving around. This is just a turnip with a face on it, on the wooden post, and he bounces. But they get so much emotion out of this character. It reminds me of something like the magic carpet from Disney's Aladdin, where you have this inanimate object that just has so much personality, and you can tell exactly what this character's thinking. Yeah. Turnip's actually absolutely my favorite character. I really like Calcifer as well. I seem to remember the English dub, Billy Crystal doing a really good voice for the character. I like him in the dub as well, in the subtitled one, I'll say as well. But I remember Billy Crystal's voice. It could be because I'm a huge Monsters Inc. fan, and his voice is just so recognizable to me.
I'm not.
Ooh, we might be getting onto that next year. Let's hold that debate for next year. So it's very Wizard of Oz as well, isn't it? I found some moments in this film.
In some moments it was quite Spirited Away. There was some moments that had the similarities, and I thought, oh, okay. And then I had high hopes, and then it went, and I was like, oh.
You have the Scarecrow character. There's another moment that cemented it for me at the very end, where you have the Witch of the Waste, who steals Howl's heart at the very end, and everything starts going to shit, and Calcifer's just spouting fire, and Sophie chucks a bucket of water on the witch, and I was like, oh, okay, yeah, like another maybe that's in the book, maybe that was an original creation, but there was a lot of these things where... But I don't think it's completely egregious. Like it doesn't follow that rigidly. It's just little moments that I notice, like, oh, but I can see where that may have been inspired from in some way.
Isn't that like a thing though? Like ever since Wizard of Oz, like everyone knows witches as like, well, in the book she wasn't green, but like everyone knows witches as this green. Like there's a cliche about it now, is what I'm saying. So like the whole witch being thrown water over something is this whole supposed to be like it melts the villain. It's like a trope, isn't it? Now, ever kind of since then.
Yeah. There was I can't remember which film it was now. I think it was Princess Mononoke where I mentioned that the Mother Wolf character in the dubbed version that you watch, it's Gillian Anderson who does the voice of the wolf, but in the subtitled version, although it's called the Wolf Mother, it's a man's voice. And that was the same with the Witch of the Waste in this. Now, this voice actor has been in another Studio Ghibli movie, I remember. But yeah, it's a guy doing the voice of the Witch of the Waste, but it almost sounded at first like there was a male voice and a female voice kind of like layered over the top of one another, and it kept sort of going in and out, which gave the Witch of the Waste this very sort of demonic voice, almost this very unnatural, unsettling kind of voice. So at first I was like, oh, I remember watching the English dub, and it's Lauren Bacall who does the voice of the Witch of the Waste, whereas in this subtitled version, there's a guy doing the voice. It was strange to me at first, but the voice actually kind of worked, weirdly enough. It made the witch a little bit more unsettling of a character.
I'm trying to think what else did that recently. I can't think, but something was coming into my head and then it just went.
Mm-hmm. No, that's fine. So you said the biggest criticism that you've had is, well, you've mentioned some tropes being very samey, like you've seen it done to death before, but you also levied quite a lot of criticism on the voice acting of this film in terms of the English dub. Do you think that you would give this another shot, this film, in the original language, in the Japanese? Like maybe you'd appreciate it more?
I wasn't really keen on the whole thing. It was quite, there were some quirky characters, there were, but like I said, it was the side characters more. There was no really any main characters that I was like, oh, this is really cool, or it felt like, oh, I'd revisit it again. It was cool to look at, and I feel like I looked at it, and I think yes, the sub would be better, but I wouldn't revisit it. It's not that kind of level, but the voice acting really was a big letdown as well. Like it was a big thing that made me just think, like they just sounded silly. I mean, to be fair, when you get like, obviously, the thing is, when it comes to, and I thought about this the other day, was the new Silent Hill. I played that in Japanese because I was like, okay, I wanted to play it in Japanese, and then I thought about, like, I watched a couple of videos of the English dub because I knew one of the people, obviously, that played the chick that played the main character. I knew her from something else. So anyway, so the point is, I watched a couple of videos on that, and I was like, they just sound weird and awkward. And my first introduction to any sort of Japanese kind of, when people are like killing people or anything like that, was Kill Bill. Like when I was younger, that was that whole, and like and blood and everything. And I thought these just sound so much better. So I always like more violent Japanese stuff and anime in the authentic language. I think when you get more kid-friendly stuff, I think the Western voices work not better than the Japanese voices, but better in the more kid-friendly stuff like this than they do in the more adult-friendly stuff, if that makes sense. So if I ever experience something like this, I don't mind the dub as much, but if it's more adult, I prefer the sub like 100%. Anyway, I was making a point and I'm just kind of lost track.
It will come back.
That was it. My point I was making was, in this, I don't think it would enhance it enough. Whereas, like I say, if it was more adult and I'd watch that, I might think, you know what, this is going to enhance it so much. I don't see that with this. I just see it as being, yes, that bit better, but I still just don't see it as being this great movie that I'll enjoy. But I do, the English voices, I do think they were all awkward and all like, oh my God, I didn't like listening to them. It would have been better to experience it in the sub, but I wouldn't go back and experience it. Think, oh, well, I prefer it this time. It was me.
I'm surprised by this one a little bit because, as I mentioned, I do remember reading a forum somewhere with a lot of people saying, because I think initially when I was watching them, I said, look, are the subtitled versions better or the dubbed versions better? And the consensus was that the dubs are done very, very well, that, Disney have done them. They're presided over very well. It's a good translation and everything.
Yeah. So, I mean, dubs can be done very well. Like sometimes a good company will get a hold of them. One for me is Dragon Ball. I absolutely love the dubs of that, but also I grew up on the dubs, from a young age, so I'm quite used to those kind of voices. So I might be biased in a way, But some dubs you do get that are done really well, and I do think Studio Ghibli is one of them where they put the effort into it, which is fine. I just think this is one where they just kind of fell off the mark, and I don't know if they fell off the mark in the sense of, I think the voices did what they needed to do in a lot of places, but I think like main character wise, again, it was a letdown. It was like, Christian Bale was okay, it sounded awkward, it sounded horrible. Sophie, again, she sounded awkward. She sounded like, why is this girl even here? She doesn't want to be here. And it was the whole thing was just a little bit, I don't know, maybe they all were really, really hungover or something when they recorded the voice.
Maybe. Christian Bale definitely sounds it. Yeah, he just sounds bored.
It just all sounded, there wasn't really much life and emotion in the characters. There, I have to say, the old voice, I always say the old voice because I can't remember the woman who plays her name, but like I think she was really good. I really liked her voice, but majority of the characters, they weren't very memorable. Sophie was, again, like, she was a blank slate. She was how you would imagine AI to sound before, like, years and years ago, before they put emotion into it. And when, let's try and, like, it was just a blank slate of voice that's like, that could fucking be anyone,
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, I mean, I've watched them all in Japanese so far, and I've loved all of them. I think the voice acting's been incredible across the board. And I know that you always listen to the English version, but you sometimes flip between the two just to see the translation and everything, and see if it
seemed to be too much difference or anything. It was just your generic stuff, like like little lines where. And this is the thing, like sometimes I'm trying to think of a really good example. I can't think of a great example at the moment, so I'll try and explain it. But like lines of saying, like, if someone goes hello, literally could be much longer in Japanese. So in English, they would change it to hello there. Do you know what I mean? They would have it longed out. So it was just little things like that, I don't think it changed it too much at all.
Yeah. And Bath Time says, I've always wondered if the foreign voice actors for Disney had their heads in their hands when they first heard Robin Williams in Aladdin. Yeah, oh my God, could you imagine? What about like the pop culture references that are just so like Western and American? Like, did they change them for Japanese audiences? Did they change the pop culture references and whatnot? I wonder. That'd be interesting to find out. Yeah.
Good point. I'm trying to. There's definitely some things I've watched in a different language because I've been like, I wonder if they've kept that the same. And sometimes you get just a generic thing that they say, like a different sort of joke where they don't have a. Do you know what I mean? It's just the very most basic thing they can change it into.
Bathsheim says, do Tarantino next. Well, fun you should mention that, because you talked about Kill Bill just a second ago as well. The whole bloody affair. The version of Kill Bill that I've been dying to see for ages is actually coming to theaters, apparently nationwide, worldwide on the 5th of December. I keep checking Odeon. I really hope it's playing in my local Odeon. I will have a tactical sick day off work just for that, because I need to see this version of the film. It's never been made public. It's never, well, apart from like Tarantino's own cinema, I think, over in the States. But it amazes me that we've never had a home release of that. You can only get it in the 2 volumes.
I think that would be amazing. But I've always preferred Volume 1 over Volume 2. Like, they are quite different movies. In some, well, not like, it'll be interesting to see really compact together. I think it'll work, but they are very different. But I think that'll help with the pacing. I don't think it'll seem like, okay, come on, we've been here for free. I don't think it'll feel like that because they're quite different. And I think that was done as that intention, which I think would be cool. But we all know Tarantino knows his movies. He knows how to make a good movie.
Yeah.
He knows pacing. Aside from his weird thing in Pulp Fiction where he put that middle section in there for some reason, we will never understand why.
Oh, with Bruce Willis, yeah.
That was weird.
We have talked about doing Tarantino, actually. And I know on the...
And then we said we'll wait till he does his 10th movie. So maybe when we're 40.
I mean, I know on the old channel that shall not be named, I did do a Tarantino retrospective, so I have done one already.
I have a weird feeling about Tarantino because I picked up. I have the novel version of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and I forgot. I put it somewhere. It's in one of my drawers, and I was just going through some stuff earlier, and I haven't got around to reading it yet. But it's not in a drawer with the rest of my books. It's in a different drawer for some reason. I don't know why, but it's with like some of like my old like PS2 games, because I've still got a load of PS2 games, and it's in there for some reason. And I opened the drawer and I was like, oh shit, I forgot I had that. So it's really interesting that Tarantino's been brought up today. Yeah.
Maybe that's a sign. Maybe, yeah. No.
That's what it is.
Just bringing it back to Howl's Moving Castle, then. So, the themes of the book and the movie are very, very different. I mean, maybe this is one you could add to your reading list. I know your ever increasing list of
Well,
books that
the
you're
thing
working your
is,
way through.
because I've seen this, my opinion's already like, do I? I'm gonna. It's gonna take a lot. That's the thing. Like, you know what I mean? It's like when you like something already, and you feel, oh, they've done this, you're eager to look, but it's
Yeah.
kind of now the effect is like don't know how eager I'll be. So I mean, the book could be better, but I've already got a negative opinion on this.
So apparently the book focuses more on like class systems and challenging class and like gender norms and things like that. And I think there is a little bit of that in this film, but the film focuses more on like the love aspect, you know, personal confidence and whatnot, and also that aspect of war, which isn't really present in the book at all. Um, let's talk about Sophie then, because you had some strong opinions on Sophie's character. One of the things that confused me when I was watching the film, and I think this is maybe left intentionally ambiguous. She's cursed at the very beginning. You know, she's a young woman who's cursed to look old, but then periodically through the movie, sometimes she still appears young. Sometimes she looks old, but like young in the face, but with grey hair. And that really confused me at first because I was thinking, is the curse wearing off? But then it would sort of flip flop.
I got confused on that as well.
And then I was thinking, I was trying to think of all the different possibilities, and I thought maybe she changes depending on how Howl sees her. But then I thought, well, no, because sometimes Howl isn't even in the frame. Sometimes Howl's off screen doing whatever he's doing. He's very aloof. He's very, you know, going about his business as a wizard. And we're left with Sophie. So Howl's not looking at her. Like her appearance isn't changing. But so I thought, well, no, that can't be it. And then I guess I've settled on two different aspects. I've seen two different readings of this. One is that she changes depending on her confidence at the time, and when she becomes a bit more self-assured, and you know, takes the initiative and is going after and is just imbued with that inner confidence, that's when she starts to look a little bit more youthful. And then I've also seen that it's whenever she is in love with Howl, or thinking about him, or you know, infatuated, besotted with him, whatever you want to say, that's when she becomes younger, because it is a love story ultimately, this, which crosses time as well towards the end of the film. There's this whole elaborate segment towards the end of the film where Sophie kind of falls through a wormhole in time and sees a young Howl where he catches a falling star, and it's Calcifer, and you know, like he imbues Calcifer with his own heart and everything. And she calls to him. She says, like, wait for me in the future. And there's this whole like time travel thing that goes on. It's like star-crossed lovers through time or whatnot. So yeah, I wanted to get your opinion on what you thought they were trying to get across with her constant changing age in this film.
You know what? That did confuse me as well. I won't lie. When I was watching it, I was also like, I say I was doing something. I wasn't in and out constantly, but I was like occasionally there was the other thing. I was like something like a couple of the other. Let me start the sentence again. There was occasionally a couple of other things I was doing. I was quite focused on this. Like I did try and stay with it, but there was a couple of times I was doing it. I kept looking. I was like, I swear that's changed, and it did confuse me a little bit. But it's yeah. I mean, whenever you involve time travel and stuff, it confuses everything. Like it does. When you start getting time travel involved, it's a bit like now you're just doing it to confuse people.
Yeah, I was a little bit confused by it. I
I've
think,
never been the
yeah.
biggest fan of throwing time travel in there, and you know, I mean, I feel like sometimes it's a bit of a cop out to make it more mysterious, and I'm like, you don't need to confuse people more. And then because also you got to think with time travel, there's always different rules. Can you travel back in time and meet your old self, or do you travel back in time and you replace that old self because you are that? And it's just too much. No, time travel.
It did make me curious because Howl must know who Sophie is, right? Because she appeared, albeit like a sort of ethereal voice, probably from a distance, saying, "Wait for me in the future." I didn't check this, and I should have done. I should have gone back to the first scene where the two of them meet, because I think Howl does recognize her straight away. Or does he say something like, "Oh, I thought I'd find you here," or something like? Doesn't he say something like? Isn't that like his first word to her at the
I
beginning
mean,
of the
I
film?
don't know if that's exactly the word, but yeah.
But Yeah, I wondered if there was some kind of like time loop, if they do tie that up at the very beginning of the film somehow. But it's a small part of well, I say a small part of the film. I guess through that moment, she understands how Howl's heart and Calcifer are linked together, and that ultimately brings him back. So I guess I was going to say it's a throwaway scene. Really, it was strange to get the time travel in there, though. It felt like, oh, we're doing time travel now. Like, okay, it did catch me
Yeah.
off guard a little bit. Um, the animation itself. So we talked about how this one was done entirely digitally. I think it looks incredible. It still has all the aspects of those hand-drawn qualities, which we've come to expect from some of the earlier Studio Ghiblis, but we are seeing the animation push into that. You know, this was around the early to mid 2000s now at this point, and we were seeing that in Disney as well. We were seeing it from a lot of
it when the house is like where it's moving.
Yeah,
and, like really notice that a lot of the time on the difference between that and the rest of like the background. You know, even when it's like the parts and you see them over there and they're kind of like hung over the like the balcony of it, and you see it moving, like you notice that a lot there. So yeah, I think it's incorporated really, really well.
Yeah, I love the design of the castle. I think it looks so cool, really imaginative.
And the bugs, when she's sweeping and you see all the bugs run, you see they're like on top, and
it reminds me the house reminds me of like Baba Yaga's house. How it's this big structure on chicken legs.
It reminds me of the old lady lived in a shoe.
Okay, yeah, I can see that. Yeah. So I mean, all of and I mean the background as well. I always love trying to think when I'm watching these Studio Ghibli films. I'm sort of got an eye for all like the cinematography in it and the animation. And I'm looking for that one shot that's going to be that beautiful background shot. And I was just absolutely enamored by Howl's room and just all the different like little you know, trinkets that he's got and little chimes and, you know, like beads and everything he's got. It just looked amazing, like very cluttered, very unorganized, but like the animation on that alone, on that background plate, was just absolutely wonderful, which is why I chose it. Another big theme as well in this film, I guess is the last one we'll talk about before rounding off, is like the concept of old age and just compassion. A thing that's talked about this film quite a bit is that there's not really any clear-cut villains in it again, which is something that we have discussed in previous Studio Ghibli films as well. In that you initially have the Witch of the Waste, who fills that villain role because she is ultimately the one that curses Sophie at the beginning of the film. But then very quickly, when she's sort of humiliated, when she meets Suleiman and she's like walking up the stairs, that was really grotesque as well, like because the Witch of the Waste is this like hugely immensely fat woman, you know, she's like trying to like struggle up the stairs and she's like sweating and it's just it was like really gross how it was animated.
Jabba the Hutt and
yeah but ultimately when she's sort of like revealed as her actual age, she's like aged up like loads to the point where she's just sort of like this kindly old woman who's kind of losing her mind a little bit, this very frail old woman. Sophie shows complete compassion for her, and that's sort of shown throughout the film. Then there's the moment towards the end where the witch kind of comes back to that villainous role a bit, where she really wants Howl's heart for some reason. Is it actually explained why she wants the heart of Howl? Will it just imbue her with power or something?
I think it's more of a there's always a heart involved, isn't there? There's always like your heart is a figurative kind of, not Davy Jones kind of heart.
I was going to say, is it Davy Jones? He who controls Howl's heart controls Howl's moving castle or something. But yeah, so she takes the heart at the end and everything starts to go to shit, like the castle's like crumbling and whatnot. But ultimately, the Witch of the Waste is the one who realizes the error of her ways and gives the heart back at the end. So there's a lot of these moments where you think, oh, this is a villainous role, but actually not so much. Like Suleiman as well is the same. That's sort of like the sorceress of the king. Ultimately, she's not an overall bad guy either towards the end of the film. So I don't know
bad guys anymore, do we?
This is the thing with something like this. I guess this is just me speaking, you know, as like a Western viewer. You do expect those certain that formula, right? That Disney got so well in the 90s. You have your protagonist, you have your comedic sidekick or animal sidekick or whatever. You probably have like a love story in there thrown in. You have your song sprinkled through, and you have a great villain. You have that set antagonist, and you don't really get that with the Studio Ghibli films. And sometimes that can work. For example, like in Princess Mononoke, one of the things that I really championed in that film was how you have all of these different opposing factions. You have like nature versus mankind, and within those two sides, you have other little mini factions as well, and they've all got their own agendas. And I think something like that can work because it adds to the complexity. Whereas with this, I don't know. Sometimes I'm just crying out for that little bit of structure. I think that's what I was looking for in this, maybe. So maybe this is just because it is aimed for a different audience.
The thing is, it's like, I guess you don't have to have a prominent villain, but we don't seem to see a lot of that. That's what I'm saying. Like, when was the last big prominent villain that you saw in something?
Oh God, you put me on the spot now. I mean, the film Weapons that came out has sort of got a villain in there. But if we're talking about, are we talking about like cinematic, like Darth Vader level here, or Nurse Ratched level here? Like,
do that anymore, do they?
I'd have to have a think about that. There's probably something that has done it, but
yeah,
you're probably right.
To be fair, wasn't Darth Vader misunderstood? But to be fair, we've always got, like, I don't know, there's no actual villain who's just evil.
I mean, there probably are some films that show an example of that. I actually haven't seen many films from this year. I must admit, I'm becoming more and more less enamored with Hollywood and movies at the moment, which is why most of the films that I go and see now are older rescreenings of films, or we do retrospectives like this, where we get to watch a whole bunch of films that we haven't seen before from yesteryear. Bath Time brings up a good comparison here, because I was going to mention this too. We mentioned the Wizard of Oz thing, but Bath Time says, I haven't seen this and I was doing something else, but how similar is this to Beauty and the Beast? It sounds very similar. I was getting some Beauty and the Beast vibes from this one. You have the love story between Sophie and Howl, and Howl is under this curse where he becomes more beast-like. You have the enchanted castle, like Calcifer and stuff like that. The inanimate objects coming alive, like Turnip Head and whatnot. So there are some similarities there. You do have the very headstrong protagonist like Belle and Sophie that sort of, takes it upon themselves to get stuff done. So yeah, I guess there are some similarities in that regard. I don't know if it really goes beyond that, though.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
I think the story is very, very different. The themes are quite different between the two. The frustrating thing for me with this one is that, talking about this film is really difficult, despite the fact that we've done all right for 42 minutes, but there's not much of a plot. There's not much of a...
Not great. That's the thing. It's just not. It's like, okay. And it does its thing. It's just, yeah.
The themes are quite blanket, aren't they? They're quite like, war is bad. And it's like, well, we also had that argument in Princess Mononoke, where it's like, okay, nature good, mankind bad. But no, not really, because mankind's also really compassionate, and it's all about the balance, and there's some aspects to these nature gods that is actually quite brutal and warlike, so that there's good and bad on both sides, which adds to just the complexity of the conflict in that film. There's a lot more to say, whereas with this one, what would you say is the plot of this? You get a little bit of like the setup at the beginning, where this woman's curse, the Wicked Witch of the Waste curses Sophie to look old, and Sophie seeks the help of Howl to break the curse. But then that whole aspect of the plot just seems to diminish, and we seem to meander a little bit, and there isn't really much of a focus. And then we have Howl turning into this creature, but even then that kind of isn't like the main be all and end all of everything. That seems to be resolved very quickly. That's the thing, things get resolved very, very quickly in this film, especially towards the end, where it felt like a rush to the finish. It felt like we ran out of budget and we need to wrap this shit up. Like literally the last scene, it's like, Howl, you're alive and I love you and we will be together forever, and then Turnip Head just turns into a fucking prince. after Sophie kisses him, and he's like, the true love's kiss broke the curse on me as well, and actually I was the missing prince all along from the other kingdom. And he's like, I love you, Sophie, but he's like, I can see that you love Howl, but that's fine. I'm going to go to the kingdom and tell my father to call off this war. And he just leaves. And I was like, oh, okay. War's over. Okay, cool. The prince is back. We mentioned that once at the beginning of the film. So a lot of stuff just happened very, very quickly with very little consequence, it seemed to me, especially towards the end, which was very frustrating. So... Bath Time says, does it have a central conflict between or within any of the protagonists? What do you think to that?
I don't think there's a central conflict. Oh, you mean between two people? I was thinking like within themselves.
I guess that, yeah, within themselves, definitely. Yeah.
I mean, it's not. It didn't feel like there was any. This is going to happen because of this, or it was just sort of. No, there wasn't really, was there?
I suppose it's just Sophie being in love with Howl and trying to get him to change his ways a little bit. He's very.
Why does women always do that? They're in love and they want to change him. Stop it. If you love them, accept them. Fucking stop being a bitch about it.
I mean, Howl is a bit of a dick in this film. Initially.
Well, don't love him then. Don't change him. Just let him.
But he's off fighting war and shit. He's off like playing both sides off against each other. He's trying to like stop the conflict.
So why is she in love with him? This is why women will never be happy, because they're in love with dickheads. They try and change them. They don't change. Then they cry and then they repeat this. That's exactly what happens.
Going off on a weird tangent here. Do you know what I thought was, speaking of weird, do you know what I thought was weird in this film? You know, the like the enemy fighters that come out of the airships and these weird monster things wearing top hats. What was that about?
I like top hats though. They make things look kind of. Do you know what vibe it gives though? It gives that whole like, you know, if you look out your window and you see like not actually in real life, but you know, like in movies you'll see like it's like a little Victorian looking boy in like a suit, or like a little girl in a white dress. It's that kind of. Do you know what I mean? That kind of like that. What's the word? Like the top hat kind of has that same vibe of that. Not well kept, but you know what I mean? Yeah, well kept. Like, do you know what I mean? That kind of sophisticated kind of look. Do you get what I mean? And that can be kind of weird, if you get what I mean.
I guess the last thing we can talk about this film is the music. Joe Hisaishi returning once again to score it. Oh, what?
Didn't care for it.
I will say it's not my favorite Hisaishi score, but I think the music to this is absolutely sublime. Like
I've not
it really
heard so many of Studio Ghibli's music.
You need to open your motherfucking ears, man, because like this music's incredible.
It's all right. It's there. It'll do.
Nah, God, come on, man. You have no way to like criticize this. You watched The Lord of the Rings and you said the soundtrack is just whatever. What the fuck were you smoking?
No, I mean, no, it was all right. I've just heard better.
Yeah, that's what you said for Lord of the Rings. I'm like, yo, you haven't heard better. This is the best fucking film soundtrack of all time.
Not. It's really not. I saw a video once.
You're insane. You're insane.
It was General Ortega was rating them, and she put Lord of the Rings as number 5 on a load. And I was like, yeah, no, I agree. It's below Star Wars. It's below. To be fair, he put it below Nightmare Before Christmas, and I was like, that's wrong though. That is wrong. But still, I was like, no, he's quite low down.
Bath Time says you've seen Elijah Wood is now in Hunt for Gollum. Bath Time, this was quite a few months ago. This was after Comic-Con, which was around August, I think it was. I did a live stream about my predictions for Hunt for Gollum. I talked about Elijah Wood being in it there because it was actually announced, I want to say, by Ian McKellen at that Comic-Con that I went to. He said, well, I can tell you that Gandalf is in the movie. And I can also tell you that Frodo is in the movie. And everyone went, oh my God, and started clapping. And I was like, why is Frodo in the story for Hunt for Gollum? He's not doing anything at this point. So yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Yeah. Like a framing device or a narrator, maybe.
You know how there's that theory how Gollum killed Frodo's parents, but it doesn't actually check out when you think about it. Like, you know, have you not heard that where people say that?
No, that's horrific.
Never heard that. I've heard that so many times. Right. So, but there's some weird theory where Gollum apparently killed Frodo's parents, but it doesn't check out when you think about it. But I'm wondering, are they going to do something like that where you're like, yeah, but that doesn't work?
They got drowned, didn't they?
Exactly.
They went for a boating thing.
I
Yeah,
know.
and
But like the whole theory was I can't remember the whole thing exactly, but like people have come up with loads of theories on it, and it's the whole like basically he went to and he drowned them there because he went to them because he heard the name Baggins, and like. But point is, are they going to go down that route? Is that why? And it's like, but that doesn't work.
Are you saying that Frodo's some kind of like Damien Omen child and murdered his parents, or
No,
like
Gollum did.
Oh, Gollum!
You heard that theory, right?
No, I haven't actually.
Right. So there's that theory on how, like, because obviously Gollum knew the word Baggins, and he was like, right, and he found his way to the Shire, found his Frodo's parents, drowned them, and then they were obviously the wrong people. Then he got snatched away, and that there's that whole thing. Whereas realistically, that doesn't fucking work, though, does it? But are they going to go down that route and hunt for Gollum? And
no, I don't. No. They won't.
I wouldn't put it past them. It's a silly idea.
Don't go into too much detail on this because we are gonna plan a live stream at some point. Bath Time says, has Dale read The Fellowship yet and seen how much better the scene with Frodo versus the Nazgul is?
Is it better in that?
Yes.
Is it better in the movie?
No, it's better in the book. It's better in the book.
Is it better in here? I prefer the book.
But we can
100%.
say that you've read the entire book at this point. You haven't read the appendices yet, as of this recording, or this live stream, but
no, because I wanted to give myself a break and go back to them because it's got obviously Aragon and Arwen, the whole like. So I want to kind of read that as like a separate kind of, like an epilogue afterwards that I come to in a few weeks. So that's what I'm going to do with them.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff with the like the old wars, like the Witch King and the Kingdom of Angmar and Arthur Dane and Ruldower and things like that. There's a lot of stuff with that.
How what's her name? My favorite character. What's her fucking name again? The
Eowyn?
No, the girl that's Mulan.
I mean, it's either Arwen, Eowyn, or Gladriel. That's pretty much your three female characters.
That's why, because Arwen, Eowyn, similar names. That's why I said no. But yeah, Eowyn. Because obviously, she kills the Witch King, right? I watched the animated version where she did as well, and I was like, I didn't love the animated version of it. It was weird.
Dude, the Witch King sounds like Skeletor. It's great. He's like, no man can kill me. Yeah.
So when he kills him, I was like, it's better. It was better in the actual Return of the King movie. His death.
I like both. One's kind of charming, but okay. Very, very briefly. Thoughts on book Denethor versus movie Denethor?
I prefer the book overall, completely. I think every character has more to them, 100%. Everything, which I will go into detail when we do the thing.
Yes, when we do the live stream about it. Yeah.
Overall, I think the one person I prefer, which I will say in the movie, is Saruman.
Yes, yeah. You mentioned that. Yeah,
that was the one thing.
More of a direct antagonistic force in the movie, because you only see him for the first. You hear about him throughout Fellowship. You actually see him properly at the voice of Saruman, on top of Orthanc, and then you just get all the scouring of the Shire stuff with him, right? So it's like 2 scenes where you properly see him.
Yeah, it's well, no, 3 technically, because they see him and he's walking to the forest, and I thought, does he not die in this? Does he just walk off?
That's right. I thought
that's when we were going. I was like, and then he's gone, and I was like, is that how we're doing this?
I love the explanation. Doesn't Treebeard just go like, he was so convincing in his argument that I just like let him out of the tower and just like let him walk away. It's like, Treebeard, you had one fucking job.
That's why I thought the whole thing was like, is he just okay? So he's just gone. So he doesn't die, and they killed him off in the movie because they thought it'd be better, but then he does die in a very similar way. I will say it's very, very similar, but it was a bit like
yeah. Right then, that will do it for our review on Howl's Moving Castle. Obviously, let us know your thoughts on it. I feel like we're kind of outliers on this one. We've been quite negative on this one. As I mentioned that throughout the review, there are aspects that I do like to it, but for me, it doesn't just gel together as a whole. Well, I'm glad you asked. So next is actually regarded as one of the worst Studio Ghibli movies, actually. But it looks cool. I think this is based on sort of like European like mythology or English folklore or something. Tales from Earthsea. from 2006. So it says, in a mythical land, a man and a young boy investigate a series of unusual occurrences, which isn't helpful at all to understanding what it's about. But it's got a dragon in it. The poster's got a dragon. It looks like a proper dragon as well, like with two wings and 4 limbs. Proper dragon. So yeah, Tales from Earthsea will be what we're talking about next week. 1 hour 55 minutes. Fuck me. Okay, let's do it. Please do consider subscribing to the channel as well for more movie reviews, discussions, and live streams. I'm aware that the channel has been very Studio Ghibli focused as of late. That's mostly down to the fact that I've had very, very little free time to do anything else, and I haven't really had chance to see many other movies in my working week other than just getting the chance to watch one Studio Ghibli film. But hopefully we'll be changing that soon, and if anything comes out that does take my focus, of course I'll try and cram a live stream in there. We'll be trying to set a Lord of the Rings stream up at some point. Probably actually when you've read the appendices, maybe. So maybe in like a few weeks or so, once you've read that, and then we can just do like a complete deep dive into the book versus the movie. I think that could be cool to do. Bath time. I know, man. I know I've kept putting it off. I haven't forgotten about our collaboration as well. I'm going to read through the list of your suggestions and everything like that. The reason is that I know you're into like the whole monomyth stuff. I've mentioned that I would have to do loads of research on that and read through the book that you've mentioned, and free time is a novelty now, which unfortunately, it's a luxury, which unfortunately I don't get much of. So maybe something that requires a little less research on my part, and then we could always push something like that back to like next year or something once I've had a little bit more time. Oh, that's cool. Started a podcast with an actor. Oh, cool. I mean, if you've got like a link to that, dude, I'll definitely check that out, because I'm always driving, so it'd be good to listen to something different than what I've been listening to at the moment, which has mostly been Sabaton songs. Actually, I've been listening to all of Sabaton's discography recently, so be a nice break from that. But anyway, thank you to Bath Time for jumping in, and anyone else that's been lurking or watching as well. We really appreciate you guys, and we will see you again on the next stream. Take care, everyone.